thank you for joining us. Let me introduce Elizabeth Fergert, business consultant at the Penn State Small Business Development Center. Elizabeth brings a wealth of experience in marketing and program design to her role as a business consultant at the SBDC. Her educational background includes a master's degree in educational leadership from Penn State, where she also serves as an adjunct professor at the Smeal College of Business. Elizabeth's dedication to serving aspiring entrepreneurs extends beyond her work at the SBDC. She actively coaches students in various entrepreneurship programs hosted by the university and ecosystem partners. We're delighted to have Elizabeth with us today to share her insights into small business development and entrepreneurship. Elizabeth?
Thanks so much, Brandy. Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to be with me today, and welcome to Penn State Startup Week. If this is the first event that you're joining us for Startup Week, welcome. If this is one of many, awesome that you can choose today's session. This is a part of a week-long series of programs that are designed for business owners and entrepreneurs to help them explore entrepreneurial ideas. So we're excited that you can be here to check these things out. So the goal of today's session is to help you think through the first steps of starting a business. So I have a couple of objectives that I'll share with you in a minute, but first I wanted to introduce my organization. So I work for the Penn State Small Business Development Center. That stands for SBDC. So we are a network of 15 SBDCs across the state of Pennsylvania, but we're also a part of a network of about 1,000 SBDCs across the United States. SBDCs are funded in part by the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA, as well as our center is funded by statewide economic development partners and our host institution, Penn State University. So we get funding to provide our services free of charge to entrepreneurs like you. Our job is to provide business consulting services to help businesses start, grow, and prosper. So it's a pretty cool job. I get to help people start businesses, grow businesses, and manage businesses. So if after today's session you're really interested in starting a business, you can work with someone like myself for free and confidential one-on-one business consulting. If you live in another area of the state, so if you're currently a student and you call home somewhere else in the state of Pennsylvania or in another state across the country, the good news is you have an SBDC near you. So even after you leave Penn State University or after you go home for this summer, you can be connected with a consultant near you. So our services, I mentioned consulting. We also offer training, such as this. We offer trainings in a bunch of different areas. We offer information. So today we're going to talk a little bit about doing market research to understand who is your market. So who are you potentially selling to, and who are the other competitors in your industry. So that's doing market and competitor research. We offer access to information and resources that you may not otherwise have access to. And then finally, referrals to partners, some of whom I will mention today. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about what we're going to get into today. By the end of today's session, I would like for you to be able to recall the elements of a startup strategy, be able to differentiate between different business entity types. So if you do want to start a business, what are your options for formal business structures? Understand the required processes that are involved in actually registering a business itself. Consider the risks, rewards, and work involved in starting a business. Especially in times like Startup Week, being an entrepreneur can sound really sexy and glamorous, but there's a lot of work involved in starting a business. There's a lot of risk involved. So I do want to acknowledge those risks and make sure that you're thinking through all the kind of boring and hard work that goes into that before you jump and leap right in. And then ideally, if you do want to start a business, we want to help you be successful in that. So that's my goal, and these are the things that we're going to talk about today. So, are you ready to be an entrepreneur? Are you equipped to be an entrepreneur? I'm going to be really honest with you. For a very long time, and when I started my work here at the Penn State SBDC, I was like, people who start businesses are crazy. Like, if you just want to up and leave a secure job, I was a high school English teacher. I, my whole life was like, yep, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get a degree, and I'm going to have a real secure job that I can be in for my whole entire life. I'm going to be tenured, I'm going to be in a union, they can't fire me, this is a secure gig, I got a pension, I'm good. People who start businesses, who are risking it all, that's really, really risky and scary to me. I think that's nuts. Because you do have to be a risk taker to be an entrepreneur. But I now own my own business because I've been surrounded by other entrepreneurs and by ecosystem partners, and I've seen that by having the skills and by working to develop some of the skills that you see here on the screen, because all of these are skills that you can work to develop. You don't have to be born with these things to be a successful entrepreneur. Anyone can be a business owner, okay? So you don't have to be born with these skills to be a successful business owner. And in fact, you don't even have to have all of these skills to be a successful business owner. Many people don't have every single one of these traits. In fact, successful business owners are able to recognize, you know what? I'm not a great risk taker. I'm not super risk tolerant. So I'm going to surround myself with other people, maybe with a partner, maybe with a business consultant or a coach who's able to help me recognize, all right, yes, this is risky, but what are the potential rewards? What are the potential returns on that investment? How can I safely evaluate the risk and take a calculated risk in a way that the return will make this all worth it? Okay. Some other skills that will help successful entrepreneurs succeed in business: being motivated, creative, confident, the willingness to always learn new skills. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you are often wearing many, many, many hats. Okay, especially when you're starting out. If you're starting out as a solopreneur, someone who's running the whole thing yourself, you are the manager of the business, you are the product designer, you are the accountant, you are the bookkeeper, you are doing all of these things. So that means you oftentimes have to learn and learn quickly. So you've got to be resilient, you've got to be willing to learn new things and constantly be evolving. So that is a really important skill as an entrepreneur. Talked about being risk tolerant, being flexible, have financial IQ. Ooh. If you are bad with money, let me tell you right now, you need to surround yourself with some people who are going to help you be successful in that area, okay? If you are not good with money, you need an accountant, especially to help you get started in business. Because if you're not good with money, if you're not good at balancing your books, if you're not good at saving, that's really, really risky when it comes to managing a business, okay? And again, it's just about being self-aware as a business owner and recognizing, you know what, I'm aware of my strengths, I'm aware of some areas where I could grow, and surrounding yourself with people who will help you be successful. No one's perfect at every aspect of operating a business, and that's why we'll talk about some people who can help you along the way. Being collaborative goes along with that, and being decisive, being willing to make decisions and move forward. These are all skills that you can learn and grow in that will help you be successful as an entrepreneur. All right, so we've talked about, can you be an entrepreneur? Do you have the skills that will help you be successful? If you've thought about this and you're like, yep, okay, I either have all of those things or I'm willing to learn and grow in those areas, great. Now, after thinking about yourself and your self-aptitudes and your skills, you can think about, am I ready to move forward? Do I want to start a business? So let's talk a little bit about the startup strategy involved in starting a business. We're going to talk about the 3 things that you would need to do when evaluating a business idea to consider, is this even a good idea? Should I pursue this before I go into all of the steps involved in starting up a business? We're going to talk about identifying and evaluating your target customer, your competition, and your value proposition as a business. So first, you have to think about, based on what it is that I'm trying to develop, generally a product or a service, who am I trying to sell to? This is your target customer. You may have a couple of different target customer segments, but more often than not, it's sort of one target segment or group of people. I'm going to tell you right now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see entrepreneurs make is when I ask them, well, who would buy your product? They say, everyone would buy my product. Anyone could use it. This is a really great way to be unsuccessful in business, to try and sell a product to everyone. Because if you try and sell a product to everyone, you are going to be unsuccessful in selling that product to any one individual segment. Because what customers need to see in marketing is themselves represented. Think about successful ads. Think about the latest Instagram ad that made you click on something. Why did you click on it? Probably because you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I have that problem. Yes, I need that product to solve my problem. Because you saw yourself represented in that ad. You saw someone like you who had the same problem as you. That ad wasn't trying to speak to absolutely every single population. They were able to successfully identify who is our target market, who is the specific group of our population, the global population, who has the problem that we are trying to solve. Okay? One of the greatest pieces of advice that any business consultant or coach in my world ever gave me was successful entrepreneurs work on solving their customers' problems, not their solutions. A lot of entrepreneurs come up with great ideas and they think this is a great idea and therefore everyone's going to buy it. But no one's going to buy your product if it's not actually solving their problem. No matter how cool your idea is, no matter how innovative it is, if it's not solving someone's problem or meeting their need, they're not going to buy it. So you need to figure out, is this product actually solving a group of people's problem? Who are those people? And how do I pitch this product to those people in a way that they see themselves represented and they understand, yes, this will solve their problem, and therefore, they're going to spend money on it. So how do you go about figuring out who are your target customers? Well, you have to think about who is the one who is actually going to spend their hard-earned money on buying the product. These are potential groups of customers from an economic standpoint. Okay? There's the customer, who is the one who is actually paying for the product. But now remember, the person in business who is paying for the product may not be the end user, who is the one who's actually using the product. So think about this. If you are a business who's a B2B business, you are selling your product to another business who is then going to sell the product. So say you get to a point where you're distributing your product to somewhere like Target, and Target is actually going to be the one selling to the consumer. Okay? You are trying to pitch your business to someone like Target so that they pick up your product and sell your product line. So when you're identifying who is my potential customer, it's Target, the corporation, but also the consumer. So you're thinking about, all right, I really need to tailor my product toward the customer, but I also need to think about messaging and pitching my product to a corporation so that they understand the value and what's in it for them and how is it going to make them money. Okay? So most oftentimes today we're really thinking about the customer and the end user, but ultimately these are some other people that you need to think about, right, who are influenced to be making that decision. But today when we're talking about your target customer, we're really thinking about who is the end user or who is the person who is buying the product. So how do we narrow down that target customer segment? Your target customer is the person who has the problem you are trying to solve, who is aware they have the problem, and who is actively seeking a solution to that problem. I'm going to give you an example. Lululemon, those crossbody bags that every girl right now, maybe not right now, maybe we're 2 seasons too late for that, forever was carrying, right? The Lululemon cross bag, you've seen it, right? Fun fact about those. Did you know that those started out as the Lululemon sales girl's bag? So like the sales girl on the sales floor, they just wore those as the sales girl on the floor to carry things around. And customers all over were like, I love that, can I buy one of those? And they were like, no, like we just use those as employees, right? Like we just carry these around. But Lululemon saw an opportunity. They said, we are seeing a want from the consumer. The consumer is saying, we want this funny fanny pack thing. Okay, so they said, opportunity. That's what entrepreneurs, they recognize an opportunity and they capitalize on the opportunity. Okay, so their target customer was women who the problem that they had was, I also am a human being who needs to carry around items and conveniently access them. Okay, so the problem, need to carry things, is aware they have the problem, okay, needs to carry things, and is actively seeking a solution to the problem. Okay? Because sometimes you could have the greatest solution in the whole entire world to a problem, that if people aren't seeking a solution to that problem, because maybe it's only a minor inconvenience, and they're not actively trying to solve that problem, they're not going to buy it, right? If you're like, oh, here's the coolest, I have, just recently, I saw a little thing for a chapstick, right? Can you hold up this chapstick thing? Can you toss that to me for a second, please? Thank you. Oh, this. Okay, so this little koozie for a chapstick. I think this is the dumbest invention in the world, and maybe someone made money off of it. Whoever invented this, they were like, I have an idea. Some people lose their chapstick all the time. So I'm going to create a koozie for a chapstick, and this is going to be brilliant. I'm going to make millions off the koozie for the chapstick. What problem does this solve? People who lose chapsticks. Who's going to buy this? People who lose chapsticks, right? Now, raise your hand if you use chapstick. Okay. Raise your hand if you lose chapstick. Okay. Raise your hand if you're aware that you use chapstick. Okay. Raise your hand if you would go to the store and buy money, pay money for this product. See how the number of hands went down? Because you can have a problem, you can be aware of a problem, but if you're not seeking a solution to a problem or willing to pay for a solution to a problem, it's still not a great idea, and it's not a profitable one. So that's how you need to think about a business idea and if it's going to make money, and figure out who is aware they have the problem, who is seeking a solution to the problem, and who's willing to pay money for the problem. Thank you. Okay? All right, so how do you narrow down that customer base based on need? They experience the problem, they're aware of it, they're seeking a solution, and they have money to pay for the problem. And then it's taking it to the next level. You can access them, okay? Either through marketing. If you're a local business, there are people in your geographic area, okay? If it's through marketing, you can reach them through social media marketing, through SEO, if you're trying to reach people online. So those are the types of ways. Or it's price point, right? The price point that you are attempting to reach people at, it is within the price point that that demographic can afford. If you're outpricing your potential target market, right? That market, right? Say you found your target demographic and it's college students, but the thing that you've invented costs so much money that college students can't afford it. You're still not meeting that target market's need because you've outpriced them. So once you've identified who's your target market, you can develop what's known as a customer persona. A customer persona is basically just coming up with a fake person who represents your ideal customer and kind of imagining who is this person and figuring them out in your mind and really getting to know them. And thinking through, based on what are their wants, what are their pain points, what are their behaviors, their attitudes, their values, their communication channels. Where are they going for information right now? I cannot tell you how many business owners come to me and they're like, I need to be marketing on TikTok. And I'm like, you are a middle-aged person who is selling this, that, or the other thing. Where is your target market communicating? Not on TikTok. Okay? No, you don't need to be on TikTok because the young people are telling you they're on the TikTok. That's not where your target market communicates. Okay? You need to understand who is your target market, where are they communicating, and that's where you need to go. Okay? Communication preferences, not only where are they communicating, but how do they speak to one another? Is it short sound bites? Is it video clips, right? What is the communication preference, and how do you speak to that audience in a way that is approachable? And demographics, if it's relevant, okay? Is it a specific age? Is it a specific socioeconomic status? What do we know about this target market, and how can we characterize them? For Lululemon, their persona that they created a number of years ago, this has probably changed, her name was Ocean. She was 32. She was a professional living in New York City with an income of $100,000. Okay, so when they were thinking about who is our target customer, it was a woman who was single but engaged, living in New York City with disposable income, right? She owns a condo, so she likes to travel, she's into fitness, She's fashionable, she has free time, and her attitude is like, I have money, I'm worth it, I'm gonna spend money on myself, I'll go out and buy very expensive athleisure. That is their persona. So in all of their product development, in all of their marketing, in all of their external messaging, they think about, would Ocean buy this? Would Ocean be receptive to this messaging? Would Ocean be receptive to this social media post, to this visual, to this color scheme? And that's how they, because they know her so well, they can get into her head. They've developed this persona that helps them make educated decisions about their product line. And they think about, if you're 20 years old, right? The reason I put this quote here is when you think about, well, aren't I limiting myself if I'm only identifying this one target segment? But for Lululemon, if you're 20 years old and a college student, Ocean is who you aspire to be, right? You want that professional, cool New York City lifestyle that has money and can spend money on yourself on the fancy stuff. And if you're someone who's like me, I wish I was still young and cool and single and living in New York City and traveling and buying cool clothes, right? So it's still appealing to a wider segment. So when thinking about your target market, you need to tailor your marketing to a specific segment so that you can successfully market your product. And notice, it does not actually limit your ability to target or to sell to a wider range. But it allows you to be successful in your marketing because your messaging is tailored. Okay? So do not market to everyone. Market to a specific segment because it will allow you to be successful while still reaching a broad range. Lululemon, marketing to Ocean, one target segment, while still successfully reaching women between the ages of 20 and 42. Okay? All right. So how do you understand what your customers want? One, you should talk to them and not make assumptions. Most of the time we make assumptions about what people want. The best way to figure out is to go out and talk to as many 20, however old I said Ocean was, as you possibly can, and not about your specific solution. Remember, stop focusing on your solution, start trying to solve the customer's problem. And ask them, like, hey, what was the last piece of athleisure wear you bought? How much did you spend on it? What did you like about it? What was the last piece of athleisure wear you returned? Why did you hate it? That's how you figure out what people like and what they don't like. Don't show them your product at all. Okay? Ask them what they're spending money on now and what they're not spending money on. That will be the greatest predictor of what they're going to spend money on, what they're currently doing, okay? Or what needs are not being met. Okay? That's called customer discovery. The lunchbox here in this building, this is sort of their whole methodology, what they focus on. So if you're a Penn State student or a community member, you have access to Happy Valley Lunchbox programming. There's a lot more opportunities to do more work in that space if you'd like to do more. So ask yourself, what's the customer trying to do or achieve when they run into the problem? This is the job to be done. In a little bit, I'll show you a tool to dive into this a little bit more. And what are the obstacles that are currently in their way when they're trying to solve this problem? Okay. So for ladies, right now, the thing they're trying to do with that crossbody bag, they need to carry their items. What's the problem that's in the way? A purse is on their shoulder. It's always annoying, right? It's always falling off. It's heavy. It's uncomfortable. The crossbody bag, it's way smaller. It's more convenient to get into, especially like in an airport, right? The convenience of getting in. That's why those crossbody bags became so suddenly successful. It was just a different model than a traditional purse. So that was the thing that got in the way. That's why the crossbody bag, it was solving the problem in a unique way. And it became really trendy. And it was an aesthetic that was meeting a want, not a need. All right, so we're gonna look at this Venn diagram to think about these. I told you we're gonna talk about the target customer, your competitors, and your unique value proposition. So we've talked about the target customer and thinking about your want or need. And we're gonna think about your business and what you offer, okay? Obviously, you want to be in that middle area where your business is solving the customer's want or need. You definitely don't want to be over here because that's irrelevant. You don't want to be offering a product or service that doesn't meet a customer want or need. I think we can all agree on that point. So let's move ahead to thinking about our competition. We certainly want to think about how is our target customer group solving their problem right now. right now, how are they, for ladies, carrying their items, right, in a purse, right, if you're Lululemon. Oftentimes we think about direct competitors, okay? So if you're Lululemon, you only think about purses. How are women carrying items right now? If you're that chapstick company, you're only thinking about pockets, I guess, is the alternative, or purses. Try to avoid falling into that trap of thinking about people who are doing the same thing as you. Because your competitors aren't only people who are doing the exact same thing as you. Your competitors could be wildly different from you, but it's how people are solving that problem right now. Okay, so how people are holding their phones might not just be a bag, it could be a back pocket, right? The back pocket is a competitor to the purse. Say, if you're McDonald's, your direct competitor is, of course, Burger King, but it's also frozen pizza. Because if the problem that needs to be solved is quick service food, frozen pizza, while not fast food restaurant, is also a competitor because it is solving that same problem. So you need to expand your competitor analysis to think about what is the problem I have and how are people solving that problem right now. Obviously, you want to think about what am I doing and how am I doing it uniquely. So that's what you are marketing to your customers and communicating. Why should you buy my product or service? How am I doing it differently? And how am I better solving your problem than what's out there? So going back to that Venn diagram, you don't want to be doing exactly what the competition is doing, because that's head-to-head competition. Okay, that's not great. And you don't want to be in a space where the competition is doing it better. Ideally, so that's that risky zone where you're doing the exact same thing. Not great. Certainly don't want to be where competitors are doing it differently. You want to be in the space where you're doing something different from your competition in a way that is meeting a customer's need uniquely. And that is going to be your unique value proposition. Okay, so that little space up there, that winning zone, that's going to be what's known as your unique value proposition. And that's how you articulate your value as a business. So your value to a customer is simply how you solve their problem or how you meet their want or their need. Because sometimes as a business owner, if you're like a luxury item, it's not necessarily solving a problem, it's meeting a want. It's okay too. So we call this in business your unique value proposition or your UVP. It's what you do, who you do it for, and how you do it differently. You will notice I'm not saying how you do it better. Your unique value is not always about doing it better. And I will tell you it is definitely not about doing it cheaper. That's what people try and tell me all the time. Like, to be successful in business, I have to offer a product or service that is cheaper than my competition. That is certainly not the case. You have to be offering a product or service that is meeting a customer need, ideally in a unique way that is not being met already. Okay? So let's talk about what that looks like. As I said, this is your unique value proposition. We're going to talk about one of the tools that you have in front of you. So you have two worksheets. Please pull out one that looks like a circle and a square. Today we're going to look at two tools that are a part of the lean planning methodology. So lean business planning. You've probably heard of a business plan before. These are two tools that are developed by Strategizer, a company that have sort of rethought the business plan in a much more lean or streamlined fashion. So this tool right here is called the Value Proposition Canvas, and it allows you to think about how do you solve a customer's problem. Unlike everything else in the English language that goes from left to right, we're going to go from right to left today. So we're going to start on the right side of the canvas in that circle. If you have a pen or a pencil, you can actually think through this if you already have an idea for a business, you might think through this for your own product or service right now, or you can certainly do this later. No pressure. On the right side of the canvas, you are going to think about what are my customers' jobs to be done. So earlier I talked about the jobs to be done is your customer's problem that they need to have solved. Okay? So if you're Lululemon with the crossbody bag, the problem that needs to be solved is women need a space to hold their items in a way that is convenient to get to and small. Okay? Oftentimes we need something small because like when you're going into a football game, you can only have an item that is so small. Like you can't, because of safety, security reasons, we can't carry large bags into sporting events anymore. So it is convenient for that reason. So that is the job to be done. Small item, carry my items, easily accessible. Allegedly, someone decided that we needed a koozie for chapsticks so we don't lose them. I would argue no one needs that. Okay, that's the job to be done. At the bottom of the circle, the pains. That is, what are the obstacles that the customer runs into right now when trying to solve the problem? So before the crossbody bag existed, I would argue the fanny pack has existed since the 80s. We just repackaged the fanny pack. But the pains that we ran into 5 years ago was purses were heavy. They were uncomfortable on the shoulder. They're constantly falling off. They gave us like cramps on our upper bag. They're too big, like we're struggling to find the items in the bag, and we couldn't take them into sporting events. Okay, so those were the pains for that. So you are thinking about right now, the problem that I'm solving for customers, why can't they solve that problem right now? Like what are the obstacles that they're running into? Why are the solutions that they have right now bad solutions? Why aren't they good enough? And then at the top, what would be the bonuses for them? Like what are the things that they might not even know they need, but could be added value? So for Lululemon, the gains might be, well, what if it was cute? Call it fashion. Okay. Then you would jump to the left side of the table, and you're going to think about your product or service. I like to start with the product or service itself and describe what is the thing that you actually create. So Lululemon crossbody bag. It's like a nylon material with adjustable strap. How does it relieve the pain? It provides a convenient carrying case for men and women. They offer it in multiple sizes at this point. That is wearable across the body with convenient pockets for easy access for people to wear. That is how it solves the pains. So this one, the pain reliever, should be a direct response to this. Now, the gain creators could be a response to the gain, but it could be something completely different, right? It could be, you could go above and beyond the things that the people say that would be helpful to them and add extra things. These are kind of your unique value adds, the add-ons. So just to give you a quick example of this, I'm sorry, this is another fashion example for the gentleman in the room. Ladies, if you've heard of Nuuly, it's a clothing rental service. It's a way that you can rent clothing. You pay like $95 a month. You get 6 dresses or outfits. They mail them to your house. You get to wear them for the month, and you send them on your way. Okay? So it's a way to get designer outfits without having to pay 6 outfits that would maybe cost like $300 each, right? They're like fancy outfits. You get to use them for a month and then send them home. So it's sustainable fashion, okay, without like fast fashion or being hard on the environment, right? And it's designer clothing for a fraction of the price. So for women, right, what is the job that needs to be done? I need designer clothing. What is the pain point right now? I don't have the money. What would a gain be? It'd be great if I had a lot of options and it were convenient. So what's the product or service over here? It's an online designer rental service. What's the pain reliever? I can rent at a cheaper cost. And what's the gain creator? Mail delivery option, price point, and bonus, sustainable for the environment. I forgot to add that one up there. Okay, so maybe people weren't even thinking about sustainability. They really cared about cost. But they, as a company, can market. And remember, you are improving your environmental footprint by renting clothing rather than buying clothing that you're realistically not going to wear. So that's helping their ability to market their business. Any questions about the value proposition canvas? Brandy, anything online? I know I talk quick. Remember when I told you I was a high school teacher? High school students, they're like a captive audience. You got to keep them entertained. All right. That is thinking through your business idea. I would argue that is the most important thing you need to do, because I see a lot of people jump into starting a business without having thought through, is this a viable business idea? And they spend a lot of time and a lot of money in product development and in marketing, and they don't actually have a product that's profitable. They have a chapstick koozie, okay? And no one buys the chapstick koozie, and they've lost a lot of money, okay? So make sure that your product is actually solving a problem, that people are aware of the problem, that people are actively seeking a solution to this problem, and that people are going to spend money on your solution to the problem, okay? If you've done that, and you feel good, yep, I have a market, I'm solving a problem, and you're ready to start a business, and you'd like to register a business, what options do you have? There's some business structure options. There's a sole proprietorship, an LLC, a partnership, and some corporations, and then a couple other options that we'll talk about. Sole proprietorship is the most common starter business structure. Some of you in the room who are operating side hustles right now might be a sole proprietorship without even knowing it. A sole proprietorship is you right now, as yourself, are selling a product or a service, okay? You have not registered a business in the state of Pennsylvania, so you are not a legal business structure, but you are operating as a business. And that's allowed, that's fine. You are a sole proprietor, okay? Single member person. You, right now, as a sole proprietor, are the business. There is no separation between you and the business, okay? Because of that, this is how a lot of businesses start out. I own my own business. This is how I started, okay? Totally fine in the eyes of the state of Pennsylvania to be a sole proprietor. Oftentimes, as a sole proprietor, you will register for what is known as an EIN. An EIN is basically a social security number for your business. That stands for Employer Identification Number. That's quick. You can go online and do that in like 10 minutes. And you can take that EIN to the bank, and you can open up a bank account with that number, okay? If you are a sole proprietor, you absolutely should open up a bank account for your business, because there should be, while there is no separation between you and the business, legally speaking, there should be some separation between you and the business financially. Okay, you want to keep those business finances separate. So when you make money, it should go into the business bank account. If you want to take a cut of that money, you can transfer the money from the business bank account into your personal account. This is for bookkeeping purposes. Okay, this is also if you were to ever get in trouble and someone were to sue you. The problem is with the sole proprietorship, because you are the business, if someone sues the business, they're suing you. Okay, so they can come after anything that you own. If you own a house, if you own a car, anything in your bank, they're coming after all of it. So you want to be able to prove to the court, even though I'm a person, I've been operating like a business, and by following all these rules and keeping your finances separate, it's helpful from that standpoint, but you have no liability protection. You guys can sneak out, you're good, no problem. Okay, so that is the sole proprietorship. The other downside with the sole proprietorship is because you are the business, the name of the business is your name. Your first name, last name, okay? So my business, when I started out, I was an independent consultant. I could not go by Elizabeth Fergert Consulting, because that's a business name. I'm a person. As a sole proprietor, my business was Elizabeth Fergert. That's it. You can't go by anything else, legally speaking, because you are a person, not a business. Now, if you wanted, you could file what is known as a fictitious name. A fictitious name is sometimes referred to as a DBA, because when you operate under a fictitious name, you are doing business as this name. So that's why it's referred to oftentimes as a DBA. With a fictitious name, you pay the state of Pennsylvania $70 to operate as that name. The rules state that when you register a fictitious name as a sole proprietor, as an individual, you also have to advertise into an industry and a local publication to let the public know, I as an individual will be doing business as Elizabeth Fergert Consulting. This is like a Transparency Act thing. I have to let the public know I as a person will be doing business under this name. So $70 registration fee in the state of Pennsylvania 2 advertisements, let's call that $80-ish, $40, 30, $40 a piece. So it's about $150 to legally do this, to register a name and file those advertisements appropriately. Okay? Now, when you register this name, you're just asking to use this name. You don't own any, you don't have any legal rights to this name. So someone tomorrow could come in and start a business under that name, file a business under that name, and there's nothing you could do about it. Because all you did was ask to use the name. You didn't register to own the name, you just asked to use the name. So no legal rights to the name. But if you want to be a sole proprietor and you want to operate as anything else other than your actual name, and you just want to register a fake name, fictitious name, that is an option you have. So $150 to use a name, and you have no separation between you and the business, so there's no liability protection. This is a pass-through entity. What that means is you will not pay taxes as a business and an individual. The taxes on the business get passed through the business to you as the individual. So at the end of a year, you will file personal income taxes as an individual, and you will report your business earnings on your personal income filing. You will attach a document that's called a Schedule C. Work with an accountant. Okay? Yeah?
What are like the pros and cons of like using a fictitious name rather than just your own name?
Sometimes, if like a lot of people want to operate as a business name, so the pros are if you just want some legitimacy to like have a business, but there's technically nothing wrong with just operating as your name, right? If you don't mind operating under your name, there's nothing wrong with that. I did it for a long time. You just don't want to be marketing yourself as anything other than your name because you could get in trouble for that. Now, the other option as a person who wants to operate a single member business is to start an LLC. An LLC is a limited liability company. Still, single member owner, still a pass-through entity. So the taxes that you pay as a business still pass through to you as the owner. You still only file taxes as an individual. The income from the business gets reported on your personal income taxes at the end of the year. This time, there's separation between you and the business. So if someone sues the business, they don't come after your personal assets. They can only come after the business assets. So what's in the business bank account, any equipment, things that the business owns. So from a legal protection standpoint, this can be really, really helpful, especially if you own a lot of things. You also, when you file the business registration, which costs $125, you get to register a business name, that you now have legal rights to that name. Okay? So you get a business name, and it's only $125. So if you want a business name that you have legal rights to, this version is actually a little bit cheaper, and you get to own it. And you get the liability protection that comes with a business registration because there's separation now between you and the business. So for those reasons, at this point, we often recommend that people start an LLC. Okay? There's this misconception that LLCs get taxed at a higher rate than sole proprietorships. That is not accurate. They're taxed at your personal income tax rate, whatever your income bracket is. An accountant could charge you more to file your taxes as an LLC than a sole proprietorship, but you're not taxed at any greater rate. Any questions about the differences between those two? Yeah.
What about international students? Do they want to do
Yeah, there is implications for international students in filing LLCs. It impacts your visa status. So you definitely want to ask questions. One of the things that I'll refer you to is the Penn State Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic. And they can talk with you a little bit more about the rules and regulations here, but there are absolutely implications that impact visa status. So definitely ask about that. Okay. And we do send a follow-up email after this. Yes, Brandy? Do we send a follow-up email? Yeah. Okay. Reach out to us, and if you reach out to us and sign up, I can send you all of this information. Okay. Partnerships, you can start a partnership, which is kind of like a sole proprietorship, but it's you can have an agreement with another individual to start a company. There's also a limited liability partnership, which is like an LLC where there's more than one member. Either way, a lot of people want to start a partnership because they have like buddies who want to go in on a company together. Most partnerships fail because it's hard to work with people. Okay, it's the same reason why a lot of marriages end in divorce. People are difficult. So we recommend, if you are going to go into a partnership, I'm not trying to discourage you from starting a partnership. I'm saying if you're going to start a partnership, you need to make sure that you have agreements in place, contracts, and liability waivers that outline all of the terms so that if the partnership does dissolve, everything is clearly outlined as to what happens if the partnership dissolves. There are a couple types of corporations, C Corps and S Corps. Lately, I've had a lot of clients come to me who have been given advice because their parents own businesses, and their parents who have owned businesses for a lot of years, who have made a lot of money, who have employees, their businesses are registered as an S Corp. There are a number of criteria why a business might transition from an LLC to an S Corp. There are several thresholds like income, number of employees, there are a bunch of different things. So their parents have told them like, oh, you should just register your business as an S Corp. There are a lot of reasons why that is not a great idea for a company that is just starting out. It will make your life a lot more difficult. So one of the things I'm going to tell you at the end of this session is talk with a business consultant when you're starting out, or talk with a lawyer about what is the best entity for your business before registering. Don't just take advice from a friend. Don't just take advice from a parent because what was good for their business. I'm not saying it was bad advice for them. I'm saying every individual circumstances are unique. So please get advice that is specific to your business. Corporations are highly regulated, okay? Obviously, you're talking about having an elected board of directors. There's not as much control over you as the individual having all the decision-making power as the business. They're costly. There's a lot more regulated. There's a lot more paperwork things. So there are benefits, okay, from taxation standpoints, but there are also trade-offs. So I told you that we would refer you to the Penn State Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic. So the Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic is actually on the second floor of this building. It is a free law clinic that is available to entrepreneurs across the state. So you do not have to be a Penn State student or affiliated with Penn State in any way, shape, or form to access that. By working with us at the SBDC, you can get a referral to the Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic, and they can actually help you register your business, okay, free of charge. You can work with a lawyer. They'll charge you hundreds of dollars to file an LLC, or you can work with the law clinic and they will not charge you anything. So it is a resource that you have access to as a referral partner through the SBDC, so we would encourage you to check them out. There's also the IP clinic, so if you're interested in copywriting or patenting an idea, those are things that they can help you with as well. So again, please reach out to us and we'd be glad to connect you. So just to kind of recap, there are pros and cons to each business structure. It depends on your needs, type of business, industry, people involved. So make sure that you talk to a lawyer, get a good accountant, understand the implications for each when deciding your business. So if you want to file a business and you're ready to actually be a legitimate business, there are some different registrations that you need to do. I mentioned the employer identification number, which is a social security number for your business. As an LLC, you would need this to open up a bank account. At the state level, MyPath is the place where you would go to register your business. It is also where you would go to file or to register for sales tax, which a lot of businesses, if you're a service-based business or a product-based business, have to charge sales tax depending on the industry. There are detailed rules in the state of Pennsylvania about what is eligible for sales tax. But basically, if you sell a product that is sales taxable or you offer a service on a product that is sales taxable, you have to charge sales tax. You have to register for a sales tax ID in the state of Pennsylvania, and every quarter you have to give that sales tax that you charged the customer back to the government. So that is the platform on which you would do that. There are also local registrations. So when you start a business, you have to call your local municipality and ask, what are the local registrations that I'm required to file? This is a step that a lot of business owners forget, so that's definitely an important step. Employees, I see a lot of college students start businesses and say, oh, I'm just going to pay my friends to do work on this. Or they think they can hire their friends as independent contractors. There are some very strict rules about types of employees and misclassifying employees as independent contractors, and some rules about who is an employee versus who is an independent contractor. It's fairly complicated, but basically if the person you are paying is doing work in the business, in the industry that you are in, and they are doing work that you tell them to do, using equipment that you provide them with, on the hours that you tell them, they're an employee. Okay? And if they're an employee, you have to be paying workers' compensation, you have to be paying them a wage, all of those things, okay? So you need to make sure that you're following the rules because the penalties for those things are very, very, very steep. So again, if you're hiring an employee, please work with an SBDC consultant to make sure that you're not opening yourself up to a lawsuit or a lot of strict penalties. Yeah.
What if employee is from another country?
Hmm?
From another country? Employee from another country?
Yeah, again, there are a lot of different regulations, especially when it comes to like visa status, but ask me after, we can definitely chat. Yeah.
Is it different for independent contractors, or are they still?
It depends. So for example, right, I have a marketing business, okay? If I offer website design services, and I hired you to develop a website for a client, right? Like I'm just kind of outsourcing, like I'm at capacity, I need some other help developing a website. And I said, hey, I need you to develop this pet care website for this client. It needs to be 6 pages, blah, 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 and I hire you to do it. You're an employee. Because I offer website services. I'm telling you, another website developer, same industry, what to do, how to do it. You're an employee. I cannot hire you as an independent contractor because same industry and I'm directing you on the work. However, if I'm a marketing company that does not offer website services, I only offer social media services, and I want to bring you in to offer complementary services, and I say, hey, I'm going to bring you in as an independent contractor to hire you to develop my website, okay? Different industry. You can work on your own time. You use your own website development platform. You do it on your own hours. You get to decide how you want to do that. You're an independent contractor. Okay, so there's some different rules. There's a 20-point test. We can provide you with some resources on that. But there are very steep penalties for misclassifying employees. You want to make sure that you're mindful of that. There are different insurances that you have to pay to have employees. There are different filing requirements. You have to notify the state of Pennsylvania when you hire an employee. So there are different regulations you need to follow. You have different policies. You have to have job descriptions. There are different hiring practices. Having employee handbooks is a best practice to have. As a business, there are different taxes that you have to pay. Obviously, you're paying your federal income tax as a business, as an individual every year. That's when you will pay taxes on your business. But there's also self-employment tax, employment tax if you have employees. There are state and local taxes that every individual pays. Sales tax, if it is eligible. Again, if you sell a product that is eligible for sales tax, or you offer a service that is on a product that is eligible for sales tax. So one of the biggest ones that I run into, a lot of people don't know about, if you're a website developer, right, or digital services, editing services, those are eligible for sales tax. Because in the eyes of Pennsylvania, a website is a taxable item. So those things, people need to be charging sales tax on those items, and people don't know that. So this is why working with a business consultant who can tell you, is this sales taxable? Should I be charging sales tax? Is a good idea. Understanding what items are deductible on your taxes is also really helpful. This is why it's a good idea to have an accountant, because there might be things that you are paying for, like mileage. Every time you go to the store to buy an item for your business, you could be deducting that mileage from your business expenses, which helps you when it comes to tax times. That is advantageous to you as a business owner. So if you're not working with an accountant, you might be missing out when it comes to filing your taxes. So this is why it's a good idea to have an accountant on your team. There's some other miscellaneous registrations. One of them is there's a national or federal registration called the beneficial ownership information. It's currently on hold at the federal level. It's held up in litigation, but it's a federal level filing. Everyone who has a business has to file it. And Pennsylvania just implemented an annual renewal fee that is $7. It's basically to maintain your business filing in the state of Pennsylvania that you have to upkeep. And then there are some industry-specific registrations depending on the industry that you're in. Briefly want to mention insurance. Most businesses need insurance to protect themselves in case something happens, in case someone sues you. If you're in a service-based business, you may need professional liability insurance. That's basically if you give someone advice and they claim that the advice that you gave them caused them to lose potential revenue. General liability insurance is something like someone got hurt basically on your job site or as a result of using your product. There's cybersecurity insurance, there's vehicle insurance. There's also industry-specific insurance, so you definitely want to work with a licensed insurance agent to understand exactly what you do and how you do it, so you understand the type of insurance that your business needs. We recommend that you get multiple quotes for insurance for your business because the costs can range really, really widely depending on who you go to. So get multiple quotes to sort of price around. And we also recommend that you find a company that has experience insuring your type of business. Because if they don't have experience working with your business, they might give you guidance that doesn't actually help you in the long run. So definitely ask that question. Do you have experience working with businesses in my industry before you make your final decision? All right, so how are you going to finance the business? Obviously, you need money to start up a business. It's a great idea to develop financial projections to understand your costs and your potential income. Those are things that we can help you with here at the SBDC, developing financial projections. There's a number of ways you could go about doing this. You could certainly fund it yourself or through friends and family. You could do crowdfunding. This typically works for products, not necessarily for other businesses, but there are some risks involved here. A lot of people think this is a viable option. It's not as easy as it seems. Same with angel investors or venture capitalists. Again, works really well in like the tech industry. It's not as viable of an option as a lot of people think. People say to me all the time, well, there's grants available, right? Grants are fairly hard to come by and they're very, very competitive. So the common option that is available is a typical business loan or a line of credit. So when it comes to getting a traditional loan, you would work with a bank. You could also look at SBA loan programs, Small Business Administration loan programs. Those often have a lower amount down that you have to put on the loan, but their repayment terms are potentially less favorable. So there are trade-offs. You would want to talk with a lender to understand what are the options. They're going to be looking at your credit score. That's really important. They're going to be looking at your experience in the industry. That's really important. They want to see, do you have experience in the industry and do you have a good credit score? Are you going to be able to pay the loan back? They're going to require you to submit a business plan and financial projections to give you a loan. So those are all things that you can work with us on as well. And as I said, they're going to require a down payment, generally about 20% down. So those are all factors. If you think you're going to go to a loan and or a bank and they're going to give you money, understand first, what's my credit score? Do I have 20% to put down on a loan? And do I have a business plan and financial projections that demonstrate I have a profitable business and that I will have the credibility to be able to pay this loan back? Okay. So if you are ready to take the next step, this is a great tool that I would encourage you to work through. It's called the Business Model Canvas. There are great YouTube videos online that will help you how to work through this tool. It's basically a starter business plan tool that helps you to think through the things that we talked about today. In the middle, what do you do? That value proposition. On the right-hand side, who are my customers and how do I interact with them? On the left-hand side, who helps me? So who are my partners, my distributors? Who helps me develop my product? How do I develop my product or service? What are the resources I need? And then what is my cost structure? What do I have to pay for? And over here on the right side, how am I going to make money? What are my different revenue streams? What products do I sell to make money? So I would encourage you to work through that as a precursor to the business plan. And again, there are some great YouTube videos online that'll help walk you through that. So this is just kind of a takeaway for homework. So to recap, we recommend that these are 4 people that you work with in starting a business. You need a banker if you need money to start up. Not every business does. An accountant who can help you file your taxes, an insurance agent to protect your business, and a lawyer to help you understand your business structure. Do make sure you get those people and have a plan. Please don't jump into or starting a business before you've thought through all these aspects. You understand the risks involved and you have the right people on board to support you. Please don't take bad advice from your friends, especially people your own age who are like, oh yeah, like I watched a YouTube video and it said this. Talk to a business consultant, talk to a lawyer, people who are well-versed in this, and please don't skip steps involved in the process, okay? Hang tight because I want to get people out of here on time. I'll have you stick around if you have questions. There's ways to follow up with us. We hope you'll visit our website, sign up for an appointment, sbdc.psu.edu. These are our social media accounts. You can follow us to learn more. But thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to our online audience for being here. We're right at 1 o'clock, so I know you all have busy days. If you have questions, stick around and ask. But thank you all for your time today. It was lovely to see you all. Bye.